So thank you. I know I'm standing between you and the next break, but I'll try to do my bit and make it interesting. So I'm Sumit Mahajan. I'm the CEO and CTO of Brainalyze. I'm also a professor of molecular biophotonics and imaging at the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom. But today I'm going to tell you about Brainalyze, which is bringing to market a transformative technology, which is through an AI-powered blood test that can detect and distinguish multiple different forms of dementia and early in their development. I don't need to introduce dementia a lot, but it is a killer. It's a global killer and a terrible disease. It is a death sentence which is third leading cause of death in the US and the sixth biggest in the United Kingdom. And I'm sure many in this room would have had a personal experience with some dementia of some sort, knowing somebody, and I've had mine. I saw my own grandmother kind of wither away from within 2 years when she turned 70 and became a thin corpse of herself. I mean, she forgot her names, she forgot her faces, and then how to eat and to drink. Unfortunately, that's a painfully common occurrence with 50 million people suffering and 500 million people at risk. But dementia isn't just about forgetfulness. Different forms of dementia can cause paranoia, personality disorders, and hallucinations, which often co-occur, and that leads to a misdiagnosis. And I'm sure you would realize that the right diagnosis is absolutely essential for looking after the treatment and interventions at the right time and planning care for the patients. A case in point is Robin Williams. He was, I mean, despite his celebrity status, it took him 1 whole year to get a diagnosis, and that to an incorrect one of Parkinson's disease dementia. Only on postmortem was it revealed that he actually had a different form of dementia, which is dementia with Lewy bodies. And that highlights the problem with current diagnostic methods for neurodegenerative diseases. They take long, they're cumbersome, and just plainly inadequate. They cannot detect or distinguish between different forms of dementia, nor can they find them early. We at Brainalyze have a pioneering solution, a simple AI-powered blood test that can both detect and distinguish multiple forms of dementia and early in their development. It is based on a patented optical fingerprinting technology and AI that records rich biochemical fingerprints that can tell you about the patient's stage and disease stage. It thereby also creates a unique database for AI applications and a data moat which is our own proprietary. I mean, this work has been going on in my group for the last decade, more than 12 years actually. And it is both a hardware and a software solution which comes together to give a result within 5 minutes. And all our current clinical studies gave us more than 90% accuracy. I'll use the analogy of fingerprints. I'll continue with the analogy of fingerprints to explain a little bit how more the technology works. Essentially, it's a single-step measurement where we shine multiple lasers of different colors, and each laser gives a portion of the chemical information contained in the sample, and we put it all together to yield a unique and specific optical fingerprint that is directly reflective of the composition of the sample. So it tells you the relative proportions of proteins, the lipids, the sugars, the nucleic acids, and everything which is actually a fingerprint. And then on top of it, we run our machine learning and AI models, which do the statistical analysis, do pattern matching, pattern recognition, comparing it with our own proprietary database, and thereby giving the result which I'm going to present to you. It is because of its biochemical fingerprinting ability, it's a platform technology. It has many multiple use cases in pharma where it can be used for trial inclusion, for companion diagnostics, and more importantly, for judging treatment response. But also, it can be used for infection and antimicrobial resistance detection. And besides dementia, antimicrobial resistance is another area where we have published many papers already. But it can equally be used for other diseases like cancer, like immune disorders. And obviously, the rich data which is contained in our database becomes a product in itself because of the possibilities of AI applications. What you see on the right is on your right is a product concept which we have developed, because the prototype already exists and it is no bigger than a small size microwave. It is portable. This is, we have already tested a method on 7 different types of dementias. And we have very excellent feasibility data on biological and medical feasibility data with over 500 patient samples across many clinical studies. And I'm going to show a few of them. So with our studies, with our clinical studies already, we are able to show that we can differentiate between different forms of dementia. So if you look at the, if you look at the first graph here, it shows that we can differentiate between Alzheimer's disease, which is the most common form of dementia. But you might know from today's morning's talk from Cognito that actually even Alzheimer's disease is has multiple pathologies. But here what I'm trying to show is Alzheimer's can be differentiated from frontotemporal dementia. But most importantly, you'll notice that we can differentiate it from people who have temporary symptoms of dementia. So we heard an excellent talk about epilepsy. So epileptic episodes can actually lead to cognition problems. UTI, extreme form of UTI, can have memory problems, and high stress can lead to memory problems, and that we can differentiate. In another study where we have 104 patients, we could recognize mild cognitive impairment, which is a risk state for dementia, for Alzheimer's disease, and we could differentiate them from both Alzheimer's disease as well as those progressing towards Alzheimer's. And clearly, the risk states and those which are progressing towards Alzheimer's are the stages where treatments would be most effective. And that's what our technology can enable somebody to do, to take the right decision at the right time. And the last graph which I'm showing is another neurodegenerative disorder called Huntington's disease. It is genetic. So anybody with the gene will get Huntington's, but it cannot predict the onset, nor the severity of the decline. And here, over a period of 3 years, we recruited patients who had pre-manifest symptoms, who hadn't manifested yet. And we tracked them, and we used our method to actually monitor them. And what you can see here, what you're seeing here, are that not only can our scores derived from our method can distinguish the healthy controls from anybody with Huntington's disease, whether pre-manifest or not, we can differentiate between them. Secondly, if in the top graph, you'll see that we can actually, our scores track the progression. So it can not only track the progression of the disease, but by extension, I would say, it can also track the treatment, because it will be able to give us the biochemical fingerprint changes. Of course, there are other blood tests which are getting developed, but they are getting developed only for Alzheimer's. And they are very traditional biomarker-based tests. And actually, Roche and Future Bio had got FDA approval and payer approval just some time ago. However, there is only one test which can detect and distinguish between different types of dementia, and that is Brainalyze. Moreover, we are reagentless. We do not use antibodies. It is single step, unlike multiple steps required for all other tests, which means complex infrastructure, a multi-million-dollar machine. Our machine is tiny, microwave size, and costs less than 10% of what the existing costs of the tests are. We provide value to every stakeholder. We are proposing a business-to-business model where we'll charge per test. Our unit economics are very high. Actually, nobody can beat us on costs, yielding software-like margins of up to 98%. We add value, obviously, to the patient, to the clinician, to the diagnostic lab, to the hospital, and to the payers, and to the society. Because, of course, to the patients, because every year of delayed entry into a nursing home saves $60,000 per patient per year. Every year of increased productivity saves another $50,000 to $60,000, or adds that much amount to the GDP. And that means we add a value of $100,000 per year per patient. Our go-to-market strategy targets the diagnostic labs in the US. There are 32,000 of them. But more importantly, there are 20 million people suffering from cognitive impairment in the US, which means a immediately addressable market of $10 billion. However, as we grow, we will develop home collection kits and democratize dementia detection, opening up and unlocking potentially $1 trillion market on the route to our realizing our vision of pioneering the world's first global screening program for dementia. We have a solid, tight-knit team. We have been working for a decade together. I have personally 20 years of experience in this field, but both me and my co-founder are jumping straight into the company. Collectively, we are interdisciplinary team with more than 75 years of experience across engineering, chemistry, neurobiology, medicine, and business experience. I mean, we are backed by strong clinical advisors who are practicing clinical neurologists. We have a chief investment officer, Ray Scott, whose company, Axolotl Corp, was acquired by United Healthcare some time ago. And we have on our board Mark Day, who is a former CTO of iRhythm Technologies, who has taken things from concept all the way to FDA approval and a multi-billion-dollar valuation. Our new hires will be marketing sales areas. We have significant traction. 3 clinical studies further ongoing. We have 1,200 patient samples secured. We already have, besides the $5 million which has already gone into all the research which I showed you, we have $1.8 million secured in further research funding, which is funding the clinical studies and the prototype and the product development already. We have interested investments. Only last week, actually, we got a letter of intent for $1.3 million funding from a US investor. And we have in discussions with the diagnostic lab on the East Coast. We're talking to a top pharmaceutical company. We have 2 licensees who want to take our technology to different markets, and we are forging partnerships in many, many different areas. We are the biggest innovation in dementia technology in the last 30 years. And now we are raising a round of $10 million to primarily fund launch new IP trials. We want to launch our test as an LDT within 12 months of day 0. And we are building on a very strong base of where we have a prototype which is already ready. We have 90% or more accuracy in clinical studies. We are where many cancer diagnostic startups were about a decade ago, and we are ready to take off. So, I mean, we are raising this money for 3-year runway, and most important milestone is to launch the LDT while we acquire data for a breakthrough device designation and FDA approval. So I end with that and invite you to join us in this journey and let us defeat dementia together. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Sumit. So I'll speak for myself. Many of us coming more from the neurological or even from the electrical biomarkers, not so familiar with blood biomarker technology. In terms of commercialization, what would be, both the regulatory and also when it comes to reimbursement, what would be the CPT codes that you'd be looking for, and what would be your reimbursement strategy?
So as far as our reimbursement strategies, I mean, we will prevent a lot of, unnecessary. So currently, I actually have a slide, sorry, here. So current tests are expensive and inadequate. I mean, this is what happens. Currently, a patient goes in, you have to go through cognitive investigations 2 times, at least 2 visits required.
But there's existing codes for these procedures?
These are existing codes, okay. Exactly. So we dive into that, sorry. And this costs $10,000 per patient, which we'll save.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, questions for Sumit?
There's one.
Here we have one. Alejandro.
Thank you. Very, very interesting presentation. Thank you so much. So 2 questions. One, how early can you detect? And then do you have to develop, I am assuming, different AI models? How much data do you need to train the model for a specific condition?
That's a very good question. So actually, skipped over that. So these 2 data sets, which I'm showing here, right itself, the pre-AD and MCI state happens 2 to 5 years before AD manifests. Similarly, the pre-manifest stage for Huntington's disease is 1 to 3 years before symptoms manifest. So all current evidence shows 2 to 5 years before symptoms manifest. Obviously, we'll have to extend and carry on trials over longer durations or get retrospective samples to establish that how earlier can we detect. However, having said that, there are published studies which indicate that biochemical changes happen up to 30 years before symptoms happen for different neurodegenerative diseases. And what was the second question? Data set. So at the moment, we are using academic ML models, so statistical analysis, simple SVM and CNN, and 500 patient data samples is already giving us 90% accuracy. So as the database increases, we think that the accuracy will increase even further. Our aim is to get to 2,000 samples.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Sumit.